Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM Channel 141. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. Tonight, we're going to help you get your home holiday ready. Are you perhaps feeling the excitement of the season, but need some help to transform your home into a winter wonderland? Well, picture this: cozy, inviting spaces filled with festive charm. From enchanting table settings to creating the perfect ambiance with holiday lighting, we will run it all down. Everything you need to know to wow your guests this holiday season. My guest is award-winning interior designer and lifestyle authority, Lorna Gross. She has a brand new coffee table book out. Here it is right here. Entertaining by Design, a guide to creating meaningful gatherings. Lorna, thank you so much for joining the conversation, and congratulations on the new book.
Thank you so much, Harold. This is my pleasure to be here with you today.
Oh yeah, and look, let me tell you, even if you're not a decorator, you can use this book to build your biceps, because there are
Hey, Harold, guess what? I told the publisher, we're not charging enough for this. This is a substantial book.
Look, let me tell you, but it is definitely a hefty book. There is no question about that. And whether you are part of the B. Smith, Martha Stewart, Lorna Gross crowd, or whether or not you just need a little, I don't know, help around the edges to make things special. This is really a fantastic book. And I have so many questions. First and foremost, what would you say are some of the key elements or themes to consider when decorating for the holidays?
Well, the most important is to start early. And when I say early, that could be starting in February before that, right? And so what I mean by that is, you should always have the basics and the staples on hand. The staples would be white or off-white china. It would be white or off-white tablecloth, placemats, things that you can use in almost every gathering. And then what you do is just add in color after that, right? But that really is so critical, because you don't want to have to shop for these things at the last minute.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. So you're basically talking about a canvas of sorts.
Exactly. Thank you. That's such a good perspective on that. Yes, for sure. Yeah, because you can always add in botanicals. You can always add in, as I do, a lot of decorative elements like whimsical salt and pepper shakers or beautiful napkin rings that add character to the tabletop. But having those staples on hand is always wonderful. And a lot of the manufacturers now are also producing warm and artistic salad plates and accent plates that you can put on top of your white or off-white dishes to give them more character also. So there's a lot of ways to get interest on your table, but having those staples is basically the most important thing that you can do.
Well, for those who will be watching this on WHUR.com later, there are some pictures that you've been able to share with us, and they are on the page for this YouTube broadcast. And this is just beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I really think that it is lovely. You have the white canvas chargers, for lack of a better term, on top of the placemats, and then you've got the green and the red, accent and the like. But I'm really curious, where do you come up with some of these ideas?
I honestly, I just think God gives them to me. I'm not even gonna lie. I can't even take credit. I'll just sometimes, and this is the case when I'm designing for my clients for interiors also, I go to a quiet place. Like, I can't mix dealing with financials and project management at the same time that I'm doing my creative stuff, right? So I just get in this quiet space and I just ask God to just work through me and give me some ideas. And that's really where it comes from. And it just keeps flowing after that. So on that beautiful holiday tablescape that you were just looking at, that photograph was taken in one of my clients' homes on the Chesapeake Bay. Beautiful home, and it's an it's an expansive room. But what you're seeing here, as you mentioned, are these beautiful scalloped charger plates with white place setting on top, and then a gorgeous green accent plate on top. One of the things that I really love to do is to be able to let a guest at one of these gatherings feel like they're special in some way. So what you're seeing instead of napkin rings on the plates are ornaments. And this is something that your guests can take away with them during the holiday season. Everybody gets something to remember that
Oh,
with, right?
okay.
Yes, and similarly in the center of the table, you're seeing a huge bowl. And that huge bowl at the bottom of it is just a bed of leaves. And we're just throwing in some ornaments in the bowl just to add a little festivity to the tabletop. So there's a lot of different ways that you can achieve that without going out of the way and really stressing yourself out.
Yeah, that is truly truly beautiful. One of the other things, how do you balance traditional holiday decorations with some of the modern aesthetics? Everyone wants to stay, up to date, but there are also holiday traditions. How do you do that without having it look like a mess?
And Harold, don't we love holiday rituals? I mean, come on, right? It's one of the few times of year that we can do the same thing that we do every year and feel good about it, like it's something that we look forward to. But I always say, do you. If you're somebody who loves contemporary, do your decorations and your design in a contemporary fashion. If you love tradition and you love traditional, do it that way. If you want to mix it up, there's nothing that says that you can't mix, right? Even when it comes to finishes, like some people have an affinity for silver and some have an affinity for gold. And my standard for even interiors when I'm designing is that whatever finish I use, it has to be a dominant. I don't mind mixing, but there should be a dominant that appears at least 3 times. So for example, on the tabletop, if I'm doing gold, which I love gold in the holiday season, I'm going to likely do a candle holder in gold, and I might do a napkin ring in gold, and I might do gold flatware. So just having it repeated 3 times, and then you can mix in any other finishes that you want to just add a little bit more interest to the table and character to the table.
Mm. In this photograph, you have, speaking of gold, you have kind of that silver and gold
Yes.
um, combo where you have a reindeer, you have a modern Christmas tree, but there is still the splash of greenery. So about the greenery, let me ask you about that.
Yes.
Is that is that fake, or is it, or did you
It's
go out into the
real.
yard?
It's real. No, no, no. You hit that nail on the head. You did. Because here's the thing. I wrote this book from the perspective of being a working mom, a business owner. I don't have time to do a whole lot of all this stuff, right? But listen, that greenery was cut off of the trees in the yard and the hedges in the
Oh,
yard, right? And sometimes I just tuck them in a bowl. Sometimes I trim the edge of a accent plate with the greenery. And what you're seeing here is where it's spread throughout the middle of the table, almost in the same way that you would do a table runner. So, and what you saw right there is greenery called Italian as well as Israeli ruscus. So these beautiful, lush green leaves. And
hmm.
then inside the bowls is just snippings of Leyland evergreen trees, just to add more greenery to the table. But that's really, as you can see, it's the only color on the table. It's just the greenery. Everything else here is silver and white. And I call this the frosty execution. The frosty execution is one that doesn't really incorporate a lot of the red, which is really synonymous with Christmas. This is really one that you can do for a holiday setting for any religion, any culture.
Now you said what kind of greenery was that? You said it was Israeli what now?
Israeli ruscus,
I'll have to
R-U-S,
go in my backyard and see if
C-U-S.
I have any of that lying
Right,
around.
right, right.
Let
But
me run
it's
outside real quick and see if I have any Israeli rustus. But certain.
But listen, even if you don't, I have to tell you, this is something that's so inexpensive. It's not like you're going to go buy a dozen roses, you know. Just get
Yes,
these little fronds and put them on the middle of the table.
but the pine needles, that's
Hmm.
easy. I mean, you
Easy.
don't have to walk far in our area where you're living
Oh, yeah.
um, to find pine needles
Hmm.
and just to kind of snip that off. And it might even give you a nice pine scent if you're cutting it off fresh. Just make sure, I guess, don't get any sap in the bowl if you're pouring a soup in there or anything.
And I love that you mentioned aroma because I love designing around all five senses. So being able to walk into a room and smell something that's alluring, be it, at the holiday season, we want to smell maybe vanilla and cinnamon. But so you can boil some cinnamon in a pot and just really get people in the holiday spirit by what they're smelling also. Like all of that matters.
Hmm. So one of the other things uh, that I find that's just so important, um, because we should also be realistic. For example, this picture here, this is less about the holiday season and just a decoration. Not all of us have a dining room table that seats 12.
Hmm. Hmm.
And how do you balance decorating with clutter? You don't want
Yes.
it to be so cluttered that it looks like the Washington Correspondents' Dinner, where where you have 8 people sitting at a table that's designed for 4.
Right. So I'm glad that you picked up on this because this particular dining room, for everybody who's listening, is a dining room it's smaller in
Mhm.
scale. It's located in Georgetown in a row house there, and so the seating around this table is merely 5. But you can see how you can create an elegant and a formal aesthetic when you're placing different things. One of the things that I love to place on a table are colored glasses. These are smoky gray, but
Hmm.
they added elegance and sophistication to the table. And then these gorgeous gold candlesticks, very tall and statuesque, also add some sophistication and elegance to the table. So I do think that we should be entertaining and gathering and creating tablescapes around the way that we live, be it a dining room that seats 12 to 16 or one that seats 4.
Listen, you've got an event coming up, a book
Yes,
signing on Saturday. And
yes.
before we get to the break, talk to me about where it is, specifically when it is, and are you just going to be signing? Are you going to be talking? Give me the rundown.
Okay, so I'm going to be signing, but when I sign, I always talk. So, but it is at PJ's Coffee in Bowie, in the Fairwood Shopping Center. And this place is actually sentimental to me when it comes to the book because I did write a large portion of the book in that coffee shop. So yes, Saturday between 10 and 12.
10 and 12, PJ's Coffee Shop at the Fairwood Shopping Center in Bowie.
Yes.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Listen, Lorna, hold on because we are going to take just a quick break. But don't forget, you can hear this and every edition of the Daily Drum Insight segment via podcast on WHUR.com. The original Quiet Storm with Raheem Devon is next. That's on WHUR-FM. I'm Harold Fisher. This conversation continues on Sirius XM channel 141 and 96.3 HD2 in just a few seconds. Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We are continuing our discussion about holiday entertaining, decorating, and more. My guest is award-winning interior designer and lifestyle authority Lorna Gross. She has a brand new coffee table book out, Entertaining by Design, a guide to creating meaningful gatherings. Lorna, I want to continue with this discussion about meaningful gatherings. First and foremost, it's one thing to be able to set the table, but you got to feed folks. There are recipes in
Yes.
in this book. uh you do a great table, but do you cook?
Hey, look, I'm from Louisiana, so I better do something. Okay, I better do something good around
Okay.
food. I
I didn't know that.
I do not consider myself a chef, but I will host some folks and they will be coming back for seconds and thirds. When I'm doing jambalaya or gumbo or chili, that stuff is going to go pretty fast. Interestingly, the publisher said to me, "You have to have recipes in this book." That was not my intention. I was like, "I'm not a chef, I'm an interior designer." But I've come to learn that people really are enjoying the recipes in the book, and each of them is handpicked associated with the gathering. So if we're doing game day, for example, which typically, you would think of that around a lot of the NFL games, the playoffs and the Super Bowl in the January, early February time frame, that we're going to do some turkey chili. If we're doing, as my family and I will be doing in a week or so, we'll be doing a little gathering after Christmas. We'll be doing some gumbo.
Mm.
And then I always freeze a little bit because interestingly, Harold, one of the more popular occasions in the book is the party for one, which is where you just host yourself with beautiful flowers, tabletop, and then what I do is I go get that frozen gumbo out the freezer and host myself with it, right? And for me, it's a moment to just kind of recalibrate and moment for inspiration. And a lot of times I'll write thank you notes and journal some ideas that come to me. But yes, so
Mm.
one of the
Yeah,
other things I was going to share with
go right
you
ahead, please.
is just around keeping the holiday gatherings in perspective. So, not just during the holiday season, but throughout the year, whenever you're gathering, just keep in mind that most people are coming to see you, not necessarily what's on your table. They may remember a few things, a few items from your tabletop, and they might remember one or two items from your menu. But most of all, they're going to remember how you made them feel. And so, a lot of the on the checklist and the hints and the tips that I have in the book, it's around saving time and making it such that you can actually enjoy your guests and they can enjoy your company as well. Because when you're distracted the whole time that you're hosting, it doesn't make for a conducive occasion.
Mm. You know, when I was looking through the book, one of the things that I found interesting is the attention to detail. Talk to me a little bit about that, because, for example, in this picture, the salad fork and the dinner fork and the textured charger and I mean, golly, some people might say it's almost too pretty to eat on.
Well, listen, here's the thing. I do drive some people crazy with this, but this is also what makes me a great designer. The details, everything is in the details. And what I love is when people say, "Oh, you know what, Lorna, when I come back into that room 3 or 4 times, every time I come back into the space, I see something different. I notice something different." And it's because my design is very layered. I want the design to be an experience. I want the tabletop to be an experience so that there is something interesting to see. There are layers. There's metallic on that photo from one of the place things you were just showing. There's a chagrin placemat, and there's a lot of texture too. So there's no boredom that happens on these tablescapes and in my interiors, and that's intentional, right? I often when I'm designing rooms, I also often say I don't want them to be easily duplicatable. Okay,
Wow. Well, so explain why is that?
because the long story on radio is that I when I first started, I worked for an interior design firm, and one of the clients came in and said, "Oh my goodness, I'm upset because I saw my chest in somebody else's house that you did." And so
Mm.
I never wanted to do that. When I was just about to graduate design school, I never wanted to produce something for someone that was generic or cookie cutter that they would see somewhere else. So I've been in this business now for almost 20 years, and I've never used one item twice. And
Okay.
that's by intention, because one of the landmarks of my design is personalization and individuality. So if you were to come to me, then I'm going to be designing whoever Harold is, the way that Harold lives, his preferences, his style, his essence, all of that. So that can't be what Joe Schmo next door is. That's going to be something else. but
How
hey,
true,
it's
how true that is.
so true. So true. No one else can do Harold the way Harold does Harold.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
but I will say that I did dial it back a little bit for the book because I do want people to be able to attain these tablescapes. So this is not overly thematic in its approach, where you would see these beautiful events that are done in like at the Smithsonian properties and places like that are 7 feet tall in a tabletop. These are things that everyone can do. And so, and that is by intention. So there's a timeline in the back of the book, for example, to tell you when to start, what to do when. And my biggest thing is, once again, just, to start early. One of the things that I highly recommend is that you set your table in advance. So you set your table 3 or 4 days in advance, you cover it with a clean sheet, and then you deal with the perishable stuff on the day of. You take the sheet off and then you transfer your food to the serving dishes and call it a day. And the sheet, by the way, is to keep dust from accumulating on your dishes, right? But that makes it such that you don't have to do this the day of or even the day before, because you're chopping onions and doing whatever else it is to get the food ready. All you then have to do is transfer the food to the table and maybe your botanicals, and you're done, right? So it's a way just to make entertaining, gathering, and hosting easier.
That's amazing. I never thought of that, because on the handful of occasions when I do, and certainly not as elaborate as the book is suggesting, but I don't take the dishes out until right before dinner is served. Maybe an hour beforehand or something like that. But again, I just kind of have some go-tos. And years ago, many years ago, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, when I did, when I did do, dinner parties, and the like, you're right that if you're so busy cooking, and then you realize the table needs to be set, and so that is an additional chore. That even if you have someone there to help your spouse or partner or whoever's helping you, that it's still it just makes for a little bit of chaos and confusion when you're trying to put stuff down. So if you're having the party on Saturday, and you can do it Friday night, set the table Friday night.
Right, right. Or listen, or Wednesday night. Okay. Wednesday night or Thursday night, as early as you possibly can. And I'm so glad that you mentioned getting help, because I think that's essential too. I think particularly as women, definitely Black women, like we're always doing so much, we're juggling so much, and Black women tend to be the hosts of these parties in their own families. But asking a friend for help, there's no shame in that game. If you know somebody who makes a phenomenal sweet potato pie, ask them to make it and bring it. That's one less thing that you have to do. Maybe you just are serving the things that you specialize in, whatever that might be, turkey and stuffing. I don't know, maybe your vegetable on the table is something that is a prize winner. So you just want to make sure that you're able to enjoy that time as much as the guests are.
So one of the things, and if I can go back into some of the photos, and you just said, you're a busy mother, even though you don't have little teeny children. But there are some people who do want to decorate, and when they have people coming over, and there may be children, this picture and this home is not built for the little one.
No.
Okay. The first thing
know your audience. Know your audience.
Right. When I see this, when I see this picture, or when I see this picture, the only thing that comes to mind for those who have little ones, and my little one is 27 years old, so it is that what will I have to replace when when my cousins, little Terminators are running through my house?
Well, listen, there's different ways to approach it. And, back in the day, like I was one of those who had to sit at the kids' table, at one point. I don't know if you did, but I have 2 points of philosophy around this, right? One is that if the kids are super young, you can certainly have them sit at a kid's table. And I do, in the book, I'm showing you an execution of a Christmas table for kids. That's just fun, where some of the characters at the table are characters from our favorite shows, like The Heat Miser and Cindy Lou Who and Tiny Tim, and the kids get to pick who they want to be at that table, right? But I also have a philosophy around, the fact that children can grow amazingly when they sit and listen to what adults are speaking and talking about and discussing at a table. So I try not to make the tables so ornate and so delicate that the kids can't sit there, because I think that kids learn how they should be behaving around a beautiful table. And they can also learn a lot about social discussions, current events, and things like that, sitting at a table with all the adults.
Except for that one uncle that,
who was always going to say something offensive.
Yeah, that's right. Who's always going to have plenty of multi-layered, colorful metaphors, and so we may have to wait to have him sit with the children at the table. Everybody has one. Everybody has.
But hey, to that point though, one of my other philosophies and approaches around this is, like, if you have that crazy person or a couple of them, then in your mind, before everybody even sits down, you've already thought about a couple of topics that are like non-controversial and easy for everyone to talk about. Sometimes it's memories. Like, hey guys, remember when, so-and-so, was singing or blah, 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 and then everybody's like, hey, because what you don't want to do, you don't want to get too heavy into topics that are going to be tense. Sometimes that might be politics, sometimes it's religion, sometimes it's, other topics. But you might want to have in your mind, especially for the problem child or adult at your table, what you want to distract that person with. What is the topic that, if you talk about when he used to play guitar in the club, is that what you want to talk about? Because that it's going to make his eyes light up, and it's going to be a joyous conversation versus something that is a little bit more controversial that you may not want to get into at your gathering.
I do want to go back also to the decorating piece, because let's just be honest, this is some fancy stuff, okay? and even for the fancy folks, a lot of people are obviously concerned about how they're spending their money, even when they want to do some really refined and elegant decorating. What do you recommend for those who are trying to make it look like champagne on a beer budget?
Okay, so many ideas here. One is to shop your home. You can look around your home at little knickknacks and odds and ends that might be on a bookshelf, might be on a cocktail table. You can put those little things on the middle of the table, and all of a sudden you've just added some character to your table. So don't be afraid to shop your home to do that. In the book, I'm also showing you a variety of solutions and elements that you can use that span everything from, your Neiman Marcus's, but there's like IKEA plates in there too. And some pieces and elements and accents from discount stores. So it's not that everything has to be couture. And actually mixing makes things look a little bit more interesting. So There's a lot of different stores that you might be able to buy a few different elements to place on your table that make a major difference. And they don't have to break your pocketbook to do it.
So are plastic plates taboo?
Uh-oh, uh-oh,
Oh,
uh-oh.
yeah, see, I knew it.
What just happened right there? What just happened right there? Uh-oh,
What
wait.
happened? Right. Because I mean, if you look, and this is what I meant when I was talking about, details.
Yes,
So in, this particular photograph where you have the, the kind of the nature motif in the plate,
yes.
and the charger as well, I can assume that is China.
Bone china, bone
Bone
china.
China, yeah. But I've seen some pretty nice looking, plastic stuff too, and in Home Goods, Home Sense,
Yes.
all of that.
Hmm.
Now, certainly, perish the thought,
Mm,
but
mm, mm. No, listen, no, listen. Here's the thing. I do love a good bone china, but once again, I told you I grew up in Louisiana, so hey, I was out there possibly even dancing on top of tables with my bare feet. And that's a story for another day.
I
But
was going to say that's another show.
that was at the crab feast, and that one is in the book too. The
Yeah, I saw
crab
that.
feast and the crawfish boil. Let's go. Let's do it. But no, there are some beautiful plates that are being done now that are sturdy plastic, right? Or made of resin, and so certainly those are more attractive now. I tend to wind up thinking that those are more appropriate for the warmer months because of their
Hmm.
lightness and weight. The thing that I would say just for the holidays is if you can avoid paper plates, that's something you should try to avoid. Because the thing is, holidays it's about doing something special. It's about showing up in a special way. Maybe you put on your special sweater or what have you. Um, but it's not about the everyday. This is about doing something that's a little bit more extraordinary than the everyday. So this is when you do bring out your crystal, your china, your gorgeous flatware, and elevate the occasion. Like, why not? Like, when else are you going to do it? Now, when we're talking about the execution, for example, for the little fun kids gathering, that's where you might be like, okay, well, maybe we won't do the expensive plates right here. So you go to, and what I used to do is I just used to go to stores the day after Christmas. This was a ritual, a tradition for my family. We would go to stores the day after Christmas and buy things for the next year. So maybe you buy a casual Christmas place setting for 50% off and you use it next year. And that's maybe what you present your food on with the kids, right? And then you can use paper napkins for that, and you can tie them with a pretty ribbon that's red or green for the holiday season. They don't care. But yeah, for the adults and for this season, let's elevate and let's take a moment to really make it beautiful because hey, we're probably not going to do this way again for quite a while, right?
Hmm.
Maybe not for another 11 or 12 months.
So here's something I wanted to ask you, since you brought up Louisiana, or as one of my best buddies says, because he's from down there, Louisiana. Um, that for some Black families, and certainly those of a certain generation, they decorated their living room and or their dining room, but it was just for show. You never went in there.
Oh yeah, no,
Right,
we don't believe
you're
in
you're
that.
you're familiar with
I
with
am,
that
and the
black.
plastic on the
Oh
sofa
Lord,
seat.
yeah,
Did I take you back right there?
yeah. It
Yeah.
took it does take me back. Don't do that in my house, but so but when you're talking to some of your clients, do you have bits and pieces of some of those old practices that you try to get them to evolve into kind of a more modern way of looking at home decorating?
I would say Yes, but only to some degree. You brought up are these rooms just to see and not use,
Right. Because my
right?
grandfather, my
Ah.
mother's father used to say all the time, chairs are for sitting.
I love that.
And he said you don't buy a chair or a sofa just to look at.
Right,
But
right, right, right.
for some parts of the family, he may have been in the minority way back when.
Right, right. So here's my take on it. Um, all of these spaces are to be used.
Mm,
As a designer, I look at things analytically first. So we deal with function, analytics, mathematics before we start making these spaces beautiful. The way that we circulate through them, the way that we use them, what kind of activities are we going to do in the room? But yeah, they should all be used. The only space that I think maybe should not be used by everyone is the space that you recharge your battery in. So some people have like a little side or corner of, let's just say, a bedroom that is considered their little sanctuary space, right? It's their space for meditation. That's a space that we don't want everybody to kind of enjoy. That's really for you. Maybe you have some candles set there, and maybe you're playing some soft music there. Um, but yeah, every other place, use it, enjoy it.
mm. You mentioned candles. I want to talk about lighting. Um,
Mm.
and this is my thing. Okay. I I do appreciate dramatic lighting,
Uh-huh.
but even when I go to a restaurant, when I go to fine dining,
Mhm.
I still want to be able to see what I'm eating. And you know, forgive the unrefined side of me. And I no, I don't want it to be bright, too bright, because you do want the effects, but I don't want it to be so dark that you can't see. So talk to me about the use of lighting, including not just electric lighting, but candles. Are you a candle fan? And if, because I saw tapers in one of the photographs,
Yeah,
there were some
yeah.
candles there,
We have some
and
tapers. This one, yeah, has a little short votive candles also that's spread
mhm,
throughout the center of the table. I am a big fan of candles. I think that it also elevates not only your tablescape, but it also elevates your interiors in general. And so many of them have beautiful scents that immediately, it becomes an allure to people as they enter a room. But when we look at lighting as designers, we layer lighting. So there's lighting that is meant to be task lighting. So this is lighting that you use to actually see what you're doing, be it at a desk, be it at a countertop, be it at a dining table. There's task lighting. There's also accent lighting, which is kind of the supplement to the task lighting. It's built to surround the space. And then there's ambient lighting. Ambient lighting would be like your candles or other lighting that's just there to kind of just be beautiful, right? To add to the occasion, to add to the atmosphere in that space. But all the lighting is supposed to be applied in, once again, a more mathematical way, where you have the layers of all of it so that you're not defeating the purpose of working, seeing your food, like, what is this meat cooked all the way through? You want to be able to note that, okay? Right?
who made the gumbo?
Yes, exactly. So yeah, so you want to be able to see that, but paying attention to lighting is important. And once again, from a designer's perspective, function always supersedes fashion.
What is,
Function
explain that, please.
So when we look to design a space, we don't design it for beauty first. We design it for function first, right? You have to be able to use it and use it well. So, for example, if I'm designing a kitchen, I'm making sure that the locations of where the sink, the refrigerator, the work surfaces are located is easy to access from each one of these points, such that you're not walking around an island, around a peninsula to get to something. So that's very important. Even though walking around that peninsula might be the more beautiful approach, you're not going to start there. You start with function first, and then fashion and beauty is added on top of that.
Mhm. I heard years ago that one of the biggest eating table, dining table, entertainment table mistakes is scented candles where the
Oh,
food is.
oh yeah, don't do that. Don't do
Right.
that.
Yeah,
Don't do
because some people, even when you look at, for example, in this photograph, you have the tapers, the long candles. You should always make sure that if you are using candles, that they are not scented because they will conflict
Yeah,
with
the
the
aromas. They'll distort the
aroma of
aromas
the
of the
food.
food. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah. Now, that's not to say that you can't have scented candles in your kitchen, and sometimes citrus candles and um, candles that have scents like orange and lemon and lime. That's not bad because it adds a freshness to the kitchen. So that's not bad. But if you're actually bringing people around a table, then you want to make
Hmm.
sure that those candles do not have a scent. One of the other really important things that I want to make sure that I mention today, Harold, is the thing that I'm obsessed with, and that is making sure that they are name cards on the tables for all of your guests. Because I think that is the most important way to make a guest feel like they're valued. And that's the purpose of them being there, is that they know that for you, they are special to you. So having their name on a place card means that you've thought about them in advance. And not only that, you've given some thought to where they're going to sit. Now, one of the things I learned recently is that people actually stress out sometimes about where they're supposed to sit at a table.
Yeah.
So here is where you've made it easy for them. You've taken the guesswork out of it, and they can sit wherever they like. I actually keep the cards that I've written the names on. I keep them year after year because typically I have the same people who come back year after year. And I mix it up a little bit. Like sometimes I'll say, okay, well, let's sit so and so next to this person this year because maybe they haven't learned enough about them, or maybe there's an opportunity for them to bond. So, doing that really is a great way to make sure that your guests understand that you mean something to them. And I love Maya Angelou said that people will always remember how you made them feel,
Hmm.
right? And that's what you definitely want to remember when you're creating your gatherings and when you're hosting. That it's not about perfection; it's about connection,
Okay.
right? So don't feel like you have to go over the top all the time with everything that you do to entertain. Oh, I've got to hire this event person. And I love the creativity that a lot of the events specialists have, and go for it if you need to do it. But sometimes if it's just your intimate family, don't feel so stressed like everything has to be perfect because they're coming to see you.
Wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
I feel that this is going to be a big success, Lorna.
Oh,
And
thank you,
thank you
Harold.
so much for spending some time with us talking about your new book, Entertaining by Design. Again, PJs are on Saturday, the 21st in
Saturday the
Bowie.
21st, 10 to 12 in Bowie, Fairwood Shopping Center.
There you go. Lorna Gross, thank you so much. Congratulations. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Harold. Happy holidays.
You too. That is the Daily Drum for this Thursday, December 19th. I'm Harold Fisher.